present your request, please come to one of these two podiums and adjust the microphone so that it picks up your voice so that it will be recorded properly for the person who is struggling to do the minutes. Well, she probably doesn't struggle, I would struggle. Anyone wishing to speak to this proposal will be asked to come forward and voice their opinions. You too need to come to the microphone. Each side will have 10 minutes to speak if there are sides for and against a project. All comments should be about the project being presented. It is not a venue to air personal grievances. If you hear the gavel, you are out of order. If you persist, you will be removed from the meeting. Once your request is heard and the board's decision is rendered, you may leave the meeting. However, if you have questions from staff, please wait until the meeting is over to ask them, or you can contact staff at the office. Once public testimony and discussion for a particular item has concluded, board members will deliberate and render a decision. Members with a personal or financial interest in any request are required to recuse themselves from voting. All decisions by the Architecture Review Board are final. Any person who has a request for a certificate of appropriateness denied by the board may appeal such denial to the Montgomery County Circuit Court. Any such appeal shall be filed at the Circuit Court within 30 days of the receipt of the notice of the final decision of the board. We have 5 members present. It takes a simple majority of voting members to pass a motion. Let me introduce the members of the board and staff. I'm Elizabeth Brown, I'm the chair. Katie Williams is not here, I'm sorry. Kalia Bell, Cedric Campbell, John Hayden, and Hillary Morgan. Our land use staff is Warren Adams, David Babb, and Nataki Ruggs. Our tree person is here and they did not put you on the agenda, so I can't introduce you. So introduce yourself.
Forrester.
Forrester.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on here.
Oh, all right. You're not here today.
She just wants your name. She's asking for your name.
Oh, David Babb.
All right, thank you. All right. What's our first
620
item?
Ponce de Leon.
620 Ponce de Leon, Cloverdale Idlewild. Okay, you've come before and we figured out some things and we left the windows to be decided later. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Okay, so we're coming to request that we can replace the windows of the house with the aluminum clad, the same ones that we did with 3135 Lexington. The plan is to restore the windows that are there, but if we can't, we just wanted to see if we can get approval to do aluminum clad windows.
Are there any people from the audience to speak to this project? Mr. Coffin, I would expect you would.
Charlie Coleman with the Cloverdale Idlewild Association, the CIA, and we've been having our eye on this house for a long time. It's been a problem house, and we're glad these guys are working on it, so we support their effort.
Okay, good. All right, any other comments from the audience? Comments from the board?
Are you changing these windows from double hung to easement windows? What type of window are you going with, other than just aluminum clad?
They got that 6 thing.
601 instead of 901?
No, just
No,
6.
the question is
It's
it going to be a double hung
not.
window or is it going to be
The
easement?
windows that we got in our handout show,
They're double hung.
okay, so you're not using the casement windows that were shown in the material that we received.
Aluminum clad and wooded, right?
An aluminum clad
Yeah.
window that's 9/1, like the windows that are there. 9 panes over 1 big pane.
Yes, it's the
Okay.
same one.
All right.
Same one, yeah.
Yes.
If you're
So,
good-
I'm sorry, Madam Chair. They're going to be double hung like we've requested, not casement windows, is that correct?
Correct.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
All your opposition on the board is just like the air is let out of our tires. What can we say?
So, Madam Chair, just reading the notes that says that the board asked for a window to be brought forth. I don't remember this one in October, but it seems like it was on the agenda in October. Have we
Yep.
seen the window that they're
No,
talking about
we have
replacing?
not.
It's not available.
What's the brand of the window?
It's a Southern Sash and Window, the same company who supply us Lexington.
Okay.
And
Okay,
then-
so this is a window that you've used before on a project?
Yes,
Okay,
yes, ma'am.
and we approved it then?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
Okay,
Yes.
all right. My suggestion would be that if at all possible, that you restore the windows that are on the very front of the house, those windows that are likely, at least the ones that are under the porch, are likely to be in better shape than the rest of the windows anyway.
Yes, ma'am.
But let the front of the house be the most original, and then replace the other windows that have to be replaced on the back. You know, move one of those windows if it's in better shape from the back to the front, because they look all to be the same size except the bathroom window to me. Any other comments?
I just want to make sure that we end up with a 9/1 to keep up with the historical preservation of the home, because that's not what we have in our documentation.
Why don't you make a motion then?
But Hillary's here.
All right, Gloria.
Hillary?
I'll go
I believe it's
there.
going to pass to you.
I move to approve with the understanding that the windows provided will be double hung with a 9/1 to match the current historic nature of the house, and if possible to reuse the windows that are on the front of the house and or move a window from one of the other sides to the front if possible.
And just for clarification, these are aluminum clad
And
single hung windows.
yes, and to include the aluminum clad, well, they said double hung, that they were doing double hung, so
It
the
doesn't
aluminum
matter,
clad double
either
hung
one.
window. or
And,
single.
and that it is a window that we have previously approved.
And that it meets and is a window that we have previously approved.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed?
So, Madam Chair, I just don't have a frame of reference for that aluminum clad, and
Okay.
so I'm voting no
Okay.
for that reason.
Your project still passes. And we thank you for coming back.
All right.
Gloria Williams, 125 North Lewis Street.
Yeah, they changed that rule. Otherwise, they would pay it.
Ms. Williams, thank you for coming today. I can't hear you. Oh, okay. She's not here? Well, we will pass over her until we get to the end of the agenda, and maybe she will come in. That does sometimes happen.
So is she not coming? So we can't speak to it if she's not here, right?
No, we can't do it if she's not here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
wait till the end, if you want to wait till the end of the meeting, maybe she'll come in. I'll try to keep my eyes open. April Hampton, 1234 South Lawrence Street, Garden District.
How y'all doing?
We're doing great. How are you?
Great. How y'all doing? I don't have my voice, just a little bit of it, so bear with me, please.
There's been a lot of that going around.
Yeah. I need to.
We're ready.
Oh, okay. So I'm April Hampton, and we are requesting to extend the driveway with concrete. There's a current narrow driveway, and so we want to extend it out. And we have the second lot there, so we want to extend it for additional parking. We want to remove that carport.
That would be a blessing.
And in that same centralized area there under the carport, we're proposing that we make this an actual sunroom, the screen porch, with glass, and make a deck right off of there.
Okay.
I'm still going back and forth with the privacy fence, but let's go ahead and do it, I do it, and if I don't, I don't.
Do we have the location of the privacy fence on the map?
I think so.
Yeah, it is. It's under figure 3C.
Sort of where you've got the chain link fence now?
No, it would come up further.
Okay.
I'm just trying to gauge privacy, like right at the,
It's on page 23,
where
Madam Chair.
yeah, where the deck is.
Okay.
So you can see it running, the red line there, running across to the neighbors. That's the proposal. It would start after the sun porch. So the sun porch would still, so that's in line with the start of that carport. So the deck would, if approved, would be in that area. So it would line up with that back corner, the brick area, right where that carport is starting.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm also proposing, you can't see it with the tree there, of making a privacy fence across that short area on the opposite side, because that's where the air conditioner sits. And we don't need that disappearing.
No. We've had a nice spring, but it is summertime.
Yeah.
All right. Here you put two examples here of porches.
Yeah, I kind of looked at some stuff similar in the area. I'm open to either one. So I wanted to give an option so that it didn't have to be tabled.
Okay. Well, my preference would be for example number 2 over example number 1.
Sure, mine too.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there anyone from the audience to speak to this project?
Is this on? Yeah.
Yes.
Laura Calloway, Garden District Preservation Association. Welcome, and we're glad you're in the neighborhood and glad you're doing some work on this house.
Thank you.
In principle, we don't have any objection to any of the things that she is proposing. Like our chairman, we would prefer to see something along the lines of example number 2 rather than number 1. And then I had a question about the location of the parking pad. It looks to me like it's going to be right behind the sidewalk, and I think it would look better if it were pushed back so it's closer to where the parking area is now, instead of having all that concrete right by the sidewalk, if that is in fact what's being planned.
Yeah, we were trying not to go too far back into the yards and still preserve that green space outside, closer to the back of the deck.
Well, I'll just leave it to the knowledge of the people on the board about which would be most appropriate from a historical standpoint. And whatever y'all approve, we'll be happy with.
Thank you so much.
I have a question.
Sure.
Your fence, can we show page 23? All right, if you look at that front, and I think it's just a picture, it's just where we're looking at the picture. Is the front, if you look at the next picture down and you see the carport, you look in the top picture and you see where you say deck, that's where I think the carport currently is. Am I right?
The carport is that white roof structure right there?
So the carport is the white roof structure, which is
Yes.
what I thought it was.
Right
Okay.
before the car.
So you're trying to, where you're putting the fence though, and you had a car pull up, are you saying that you want the fence on the back side of that sunroom or on the front? Because the way that fence looks right now is it looks like it literally would go in the middle.
No, so if you look where the deck is, the red kind of block there, that's in between this weird space in the house. So it would start wherever the pillar is, that there's pillars that kind of hold. So it would be in line with the pillar that's closest to the deck, the brick pillar.
Okay, because if I go to figure 3E, which is the next page over, we're talking about it's going to be in line with that back pillar, right?
On that very back pillar, not this pillar.
Okay, so where the carport basically attaches to the house right now.
Exactly.
Okay. Do you have any concerns about moving the parking pad closer to the back off of the street a little bit more? Like where the current car is now adjacent to it?
You mean pushing the pad further up into the yard?
Yes. I know you were trying to keep some yard, but I think in my opinion, if you move that parking pad closer to the back where you're seeing that fence line is,
Okay.
that new fence line, the thought is that that keeps more green space on the front of the house.
Okay, that makes
Okay, and allows for a green buffer between the sidewalk and road and where the front of your house starts.
Absolutely, I'm flexible.
I agree. Thank you.
Yeah, I just know it needs more parking, but I'm flexible to that.
Okay.
Well, I know that you're looking at your yard, I can see that the tree shade is so dense that you don't have a lot of grass growing up on the sidewalk, so maybe you'd need to get a more shade-tolerant grass like St. Augustine or plant a ground cover there.
Well, I'm gonna trim that tree back. It's too low.
Okay.
So I'm gonna raise up the canopy there. It just needs it. It hits the car when you try to park anyway.
So, Ms. Hampton, I think I remember you doing a parking pad on Fairview. My concern is there are homes in this area that have green space already in the yards, and so the introduction of a parking pad, I'm not a fan, which I talked about at Fairview. So I would definitely encourage you, if you are going to do something more like Madam Chair and Ms. Morgan are talking about. But I just want to reiterate that I think it's unfair to the other residents to allow new owners to come in and start putting parking pads in on every residence in the area. So it's not something I hadn't said before, but just saying that again.
Okay. Well, and I understand your concern, but it currently does have, most of the homes over there currently have a concrete driveway of some sort that's already there. So that's in line with what's happening. And this particular yard is a double lot, so it can hold that. Honestly, the other yards, you would have to extend your parking right into the front yard.
Yeah.
So we have the benefit of having an additional lot, which lends itself to a proper family home.
Yes. Yes. Agree with that. All right. Do we have anybody are you here to speak? Okay.
Great.
I do have a couple questions. Now, I know that y'all have approved those ugly privacy fences all over the garden district and all over the historic districts, but do we have to have more of them? They are nice for about a year, and then they start getting...
The one around my property certainly isn't nice. I'll have to confess. Mine is not nice anymore.
The privacy fences, they're not appropriate. People in the olden day, or when this neighborhood was built, had fences like this that you could talk over.
Yes.
And the privacy fences up here, I took mine down. So across the backyard. You really don't... Anyway, is there any way it could not be a solid concrete parking pad?
Well, she does have a solid concrete driveway.
The driveway, yeah, but a parking pad is more impermeable space.
Yes.
And we need drainage. A impermeable parking pad would push water away from their house to the neighboring houses.
I appreciate your comments on the privacy fences because I don't like them either, but I think that we've allowed them enough, and I had allowed them enough before I even became chairman of the commission, that it's become like more, not historic preservation, but a community standard. You and I like to stand and talk to people in the next yard. The people who live next door to me want a great big fence so they don't have to talk to me. So there are two different kinds of things going on there that's hard to balance, but I don't think that we could say that we're not going to do them anymore at this point without a great deal of discussion. But I certainly take your point, and I think that allowing things that are, in fact, we've got a welded wire fence that's proposed in a backyard.
Well, I could see it across the back of the back.
Yes.
But not down the side.
Yes, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
That's a legitimate concern, ma'am.
It is.
About the deck.
Is there anybody else that wants to speak about this project?
So, Madam Chair, do we have anything on the deck and the screened-in porch?
Well, so one, if you look at that section, that's a really weird step down into a weird space. It's kind of like a patio, but it gets overgrown. So a deck would look a lot more cleaner and be a lot more functional for the space.
Okay.
Especially considering now this will be a proper sun porch. It'll allow for more entertaining. So that's the idea.
I think my only concern, I don't have an issue with the deck, okay? Personally, I don't have an issue with the deck or the location of the deck, the size of the deck, where it's located on the house in comparison to where anything else, because it's not going to be massively intrusive. My biggest question is, what are the rails in the deck going to look like in terms of the side profile of the deck itself?
Sure.
So for me, the question turns more to that, not necessarily having an issue with the deck, just what is the deck going to look like in terms of the pickets and the rails and the steps coming down from the deck. So part of me wants to ask, are you willing to table the deck until next meeting where we can see more of a sketch or a image of what the deck would actually look like in terms of that?
It would look, I was just planning on doing something that's been approved a million times over, a basic wood space picket on the rails, and then paint it. I don't like raw wood. And even on the fence, I generally have moved to using a warranted wood picket. I think they call it Ulta, where the stain is locked in, and it's a thicker board. I have it at my house. I'm sure you've seen my fence, and the color holds for a very long time until you're ready to stain it, and it's just a much more durable product. And on the deck itself, it would be a warm wood tone on the top with a iron ore rail.
So I appreciate everything you're saying, and I don't have concerns about it, but my concern is without seeing it, we have nothing in the documents that we have to back that up.
Okay.
So it's kind of, I can say, hey, like a standard picket, but I know if I probably asked everybody out here to draw me what that means, it's probably all going to come out with something slightly different than
Can I show you now? We're kind of on a tight timeline, and the crew was basically ready to get started.
Have you got it with you?
Yeah.
Was it in our packet?
No.
I didn't think so.
Well,
He didn't request it. I sent him what Sean requested of me. I didn't even think about. Go ahead.
well, my concern, I mean, the sunroom, I mean, there's going to be some change there. We don't have any sketches or drawings or anything about how that's going to end up. I mean, I'm not saying that it won't be approved, but I mean, I can see what it looks like right now in the photographs. What's it going to look like when you're completed your work?
We're essentially keeping the same framing, and we're replacing it with the gridded windows, and the bottom lower will 24 inches up would be built out of wood like you see in the picture. So we're keeping it in line with what's there. It's just that it will be replaced with the glazing. We'll still have the 2 exterior doors. We're actually going to keep the original doors and fix the screens.
I personally do not have an issue with the privacy fence as long as the privacy fence aligns with the back what I would call the back corner of what would be the new sunroom, okay? And I personally don't have any concerns with the sunroom as long as it meets the appearance of example number 2 as noted in the list. I also don't have an issue, this is just me, with the concrete pad, if the concrete pad is moved back, that the front of the pad does not exceed that front corner of the sunroom space. And so that's just, in terms of the board, that's just where I stand. I do think that we need to see probably an example of the deck prior to me agreeing on the deck itself.
Do you think that it would be okay to let Sean to say what we think it's supposed to look like in our motion and let Sean approve the actual design?
I would be fine with that.
Okay, because that way she can move forward and we don't have to see her again.
And that was also my question about the sunroom. Did you want a design submitted to Sean before it's built? Because you know the problems you can get if something's built and it doesn't meet the board's intent.
And I'm fine with that also.
And Sean did tell me, because when I submitted that second image, more in line with what I actually want, he thought that that was more appropriate with the muttons.
You're talking about example 2 of the sunroom on page 26?
Mm-hmm.
So, Madam Chair, for me, there's a concern that others have come before the board and we said we want to have a sketch or a drawing, and now it seems like we're not, and so the consistency is a concern for me. On how we do that moving forward, or are we saying that in lieu of a drawing they can provide a picture and we're going to let staff look at it? Or my thing is just consistency. If we do it here, the next person that comes, we need to be willing, unless the board can help me understand where that would not be an issue.
Sorry, there's one more thing I need to add, because the other thing about the deck and why he didn't need pictures, there is an existing deck on the back of the house that is actually going to be fixed in the process. So there was an example, I guess, on site of what we would do.
So you're going to make this match the deck that's already there?
Yes, I don't know if he included a picture when he went out and took pictures, but there is an existing deck along the house.
We don't have it in our packets.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay.
Do we have more than the pictures more pictures than are in the packet in the presentation?
Okay.
You don't know? Okay. Cedric, I hear your concern, and I guess I'm less disturbed. I mean, sometimes we just haven't had any idea what people were going to do, and they described it. But if she's got a deck there, and Sean can look at it, and she's pretty much given us what she's going to do as far as the porch is concerned, I have fewer concerns that I might have if it seems like it's pretty well set to me.
Okay, I just feel like we need to be able to communicate that.
But
yeah, I agree also. I mean, most of the times when we haven't had drawings, someone wants to come up and just tell us what they want to do, and we have no drawings. We have to kind of visualize it in our mind, and that's never turns out the way it's supposed to. With a photograph, if this is not to the standard, man, you understand, you're going to have to tear it off and redo it again.
Oh, absolutely.
And
you are on a main street, so everybody's going to drop out your
No,
house.
absolutely.
And we've had folks come in and say, well, I tweaked it as I went along. Well, you tweaked it too much, and now you're going to have to eat that $5,000 you just put into it.
Sure.
And I have no problem making somebody spend that money.
No, that's fine. And I mean, my goal is always to keep the integrity of the houses in the neighborhoods.
Again,
so I'm fine.
You do it right the first time, you well know that saves you money.
Absolutely. And like I said, Sean has been instrumental in, saying what I need to submit versus what I did. And I can only assume that because the existing deck on the back is there, that he didn't really.
All right.
Yes. I have a quick question. Is there a way that just for the sake of having something tangible, that you do even a hand sketch drawing that would include the layout of the deck, only one picture of how your sunroom is going to be done, and a picture of the exterior existing deck, so that we'll have a point of reference for exactly what you are going to be replicating in that new space. And a hand drawing of where exactly you're going to put that parking pad, how you're going to redesign that parking pad to be further off the road, off the street, that kind of thing, just so that it'll be almost what you've submitted, but just,
I understand some record of it. Is that
and
something
I know that you're more than capable, so
Sure.
that's why I'm asking for it. It doesn't have to necessarily be, architecturally signed
Sure.
off, but something that we could have that would note everything.
Okay, and is that something that me and Sean can get together on?
That's fine with me, but
Okay.
that's my proposal, that would kind of soothe over a lot of the questions that I have about your proposal.
Let me try a motion.
Go ahead.
Y'all, and we can just see how it turns out.
Sure, let's.
Because I think we all have a different view of what's going on. So I'm gonna take this piece by piece, but put it all together, okay? So I move to approve, okay, what is submitted based on the following, okay? The fence is approved pending that the fence meet the exterior rear corner of what is considered the current screen porch, okay, and aligns with that corner. Sure. The parking pad would be approved, okay, pending that the placement of the pad be in alignment with the screen porch as currently located.
Okay.
Okay. And that the deck is approved pending that a drawing and sketch, as well as a picture of the rear deck,
Sure.
okay, be provided and show that the new deck match the existing deck in the rear in terms of style and appearance, and that be will be approved by the staff. Okay. And lastly, I move to approve this screen porch being turned into a sunroom, okay, as long as it meets example number 2 and characteristic and profile,
Sure.
and that a sketch of that sunroom be provided and approved by the staff prior to construction, okay, to agree that it is in alignment with the picture provided in the packet. Okay.
Second. You have something to say, sir?
Sorry, I didn't. It's all right. Please.
You don't have to resay it. You don't have to resay it.
My name is Mr. Benet. I'm a owner, resident, 1349 South Perry. I walk Lawrence constantly, and we're talking a double wide lot that we're gonna chop up, put a fence up, put a pad up. That's the epitome of changing the neighborhood. Now, I have wood fences that I'm in the process of taking down because I think they don't need to be around. There are examples, yes, that maybe they need. But we have an individual, are you gonna move into the house? Okay, so we have a standard for residents. This is an individual running a business, and I applaud her for her entrepreneurship. I'm all for that. But no sooner does she sell this property, we're gonna have the new person come in and go, my God, I need a bigger pad, I need a bigger fence. Where's all the documentations, the drawings, the windows? I mean, this whole thing is like, I gotta get it done. So I personally, the only thing I can see right now is if she took down that carport, that's probably a blessing. But to put up a fence across that property, it's going to change the characteristic of the neighborhood. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I can't disagree with a lot of what he's saying.
I don't either, but as I said, we have allowed this kind of fence in this kind of location for too long to suddenly decide now, without a great deal of public comment on where we're going to allow these kind of fences. Again, I think they're not terribly appropriate, but just because, I've always said many times, just because the chairman hates privacy fences doesn't mean that I get to say no on every privacy fence.
I think what's different on this one is that fence is going to scan the width of a lot versus most of the time that fence is, within the confines of a smaller lot. So it is not, I'm just going to use a dimension 50 feet in length. It's more 10 or 15.
Well, this is also a house that's on the corner of a very busy street. Is it not?
Well, this one is in the corner, but we have the double lot.
Yeah, it's not on the corner.
It's not on the corner.
Okay.
But it's the adjacent lot, and our neighbor currently has hedges that would meet it. And it's set back quite a bit from the actual house itself. There is currently a chain link fence that is very short in the back, and every time I go back there, someone has gotten through that, the fence is open, and someone kicks in the basement. I don't know if they're living under there or what, but, and I understand your concern, but the reality is we don't live in 1925 anymore, and people want to move in these neighborhoods with families, and they also want to be protected. And that's what a privacy fence affords, especially when you call the police and you don't get them to show up. They've hopped my personal fence multiple times and gone through my vehicles. So that's the times we actually live in, and I think as long as we can create something that is still beautiful, we still have to move along with the times.
Cedric.
So I think it can be beautiful without being a full span of a privacy fence. Will it be a gate in the fence, or is it just the fence going across?
It will be a gate in it, just like there is a fence already there. It's just pushed back. It's not a privacy fence. There's privacy fence all the way around it. Yeah. So there will be a gate to access the backyard.
Cedric, my thought on this fence is the number of fences and privacy fences that we've approved, and I agree with the chairman there. Ultimately, I don't necessarily love privacy fences either, okay? But I also think with the extent and the location of the fence being backed up away from the corner, okay? And ultimately, if you do plantings or anything, you could easily plant in front of it and still have a huge amount of green space in front of it to kind of offset some of the fence that's there.
Now, plantings, I agree with you. If it's plantings or something in front of it, then it softens it up. Yes, I agree.
And I don't mind even putting bushes in front of the actual pad in that green space. That's fine, but the house needs more. I mean, the driveway isn't even wide enough. I mean, let's be real on these houses. And so to not have parking for a 4-bedroom house doesn't make sense.
But that's the character of the neighborhood.
I understand, but they also had horses and buggies back then. Or they had very few people had cars.
But there are people that live there that like that character.
I love the character. That's why I mostly only work on old houses. I love them, but I also have a family. I have 5 kids. There is no way I can move into a place. And a lot of people want to move into these neighborhoods. That's why half of the houses get run down, because they don't function anymore for a family, for a modern family. And I think the goal, I hope, of architectural integrity is to keep the beauty, but speak to the present as well. We have to be able to speak to the present with these properties so that they don't become like some of these things do. Like, would we rather have families and still find that merger between the two, or do we want them to kind of sit and ride? And I think that's the question to be answered.
I just don't think it's about, it has to be a parking pad. The parking pad, in my opinion, is for convenience, because we don't want to move the cars. And so there's nothing that says having 2 cars behind each other is an issue. It's more the convenience of not having to move a car. And so, in my opinion, you're taking away from the neighborhood to give convenience of someone not having to move the car. And so that's my spiel.
How many total cars do you want to be able to park in the area?
2 on the pad and essentially 2 cars. I mean, because as it stands, there's a strip that runs up under that ugly carport that exists now that just doesn't make sense. I don't
Okay,
even know
so
how that thing got here.
are you thinking about just putting an additional, like, so that the cars will be side by side instead?
Yeah, so they can kind of turn
Right,
on.
okay,
Yeah.
so now for me, that visually, it looks better. And it does get totally away from the whole parking pad, and you're only adding that one space that you are actually taking away because you're taking that top off. Are you gonna leave the concrete there that is currently under the,
Yeah, the strip goes all the way to the backyard and
right,
there's a
are you,
basement. Yeah.
okay, so you're leaving that there. You just wanna be able to, maybe one bubble out for
Or
a
two,
car?
like have your two cars off so no one has to be on, because anyways, the pad is super narrow, so you're right up on the brick, which already has a crack in it. Maybe somebody hit it. But it's, the parking, that strip is right up on the house.
Gloria, the size pad that is in the proposal is equivalent to one parking space.
I'd rather have it where we're talking about putting it than having more parking in the front yard of somebody's house.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just think it looks nicer and more, it doesn't bother the appearance as much as a parking pad where she originally proposed.
Correct.
Yeah, that's,
Completely
they
agree.
talked about me pushing it all the way back to the fence line essentially, and then preserving that green space.
Right.
Yes.
Which, and then have bushes or something put in
Right,
front of it.
right. And I think I like that a little bit visually for that particular space.
Sure, absolutely.
But I will tell you that people, when they can't park, they do go other places because, that's a big deal. And I understand what Cedric is saying as well, but, your hands are kind of tied when you're trying to accommodate people and families.
Yeah, because neighborhoods die. I mean, the reality is we see the cycle in these neighborhoods. You get older, it doesn't make sense for families, so they don't grow, and the houses fall into disrepair. And then there's just this really crazy cycle. Why not create a place that families...
Madam Chair, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Can we go ahead and take care of that? I understand the conversation. Individuals have expressed concern, but there is a motion, there is a second, and I request the chair call for a vote.
Call for a vote?
Or unless someone wants to withdraw some part of the motion or amend it, but we're talking about policy and neighborhoods coming and going, which they do. People don't like fences, people do like fences. If someone purchases this house and doesn't like something that they've done, then they can request permission to come, they can come before this board, ask to tear down the fence, ask to take up a parking pad, ask to tear out everything they've done and start over again. So, I do ask we move this proceeding, move it along because we do have other petitioners.
We do. All right. There is a motion and a second on the board. All in favor? Opposed? I didn't see who. Did you vote yea or nay?
Yay.
Okay, so, thank you.
Thank you.
The motion passes. Project number 4, Joel Gregory, 312 Finley Avenue in the Garden District. It's good to see you.
That's not my house.
Say that again, sir?
That's not the house we're talking about. That is.
Yeah.
This is not it?
That is.
Okay, okay.
So apparently I did something I was not supposed to do and did not know that I was not supposed to do it. And y'all are going to be seeing me several times in the future because I'm also renovating the house next to it, which is part of this story. So what has happened is I tiled the porch, and I did not know that I was supposed to get approval for that. And the history of my not knowing that is through a conversation with Sean. So 302 is the house that's next door. And so before I started work on that house, I had a telephone conversation with Sean where I asked him what had to go through ARB with regard to renovations. And I don't know if it was how I worded the question or how he worded the response or how I interpreted it, but I came away with the information that as long as we were within the color palette that you have posted on your website, we were not doing structural changes to the edifice, or we were replacing like with like, that it didn't have to go through ARB. So that was my assumption with all of this. So I was doing some other repairs on the house. Now this is the before picture. Do you have the after picture?
Yes.
Okay. That's not it. Oh, that's it. All right. So, you know, I was not replaced. All right, so there were several problems with the porch. One was a grading issue because the far left column, water pools at the base of the column and causes it to rot. There were gashes in the concrete that was there. It was painted concrete, and painted concrete never works, and I learned that the first 15 years of my life as I was picking the flaking paint off of my grandmother's painted concrete porch. So I decided I would go ahead and tile it. And so that would solve the grading issue, and it would also mean that I didn't have to paint it anymore and wouldn't have to pick the paint flakes up. So the other thing was that there's no structural change to the porch at all. It's just a cosmetic change with regard to the tile. Besides the risers, the tile really only faces the ceiling of the porch. It doesn't really face the front of the street. Now the risers are a different issue, and that was a last minute addition that I did under whim. And so those are going to be substantially mitigated when the shrubbery grows back that had to be cut down in order for them to do this work. So that is that's the history of how that's happened. The other thing is I regularly walk my dog around the neighborhood, and so I saw a checkerboard pattern, and I think it's a 1230 cord. I'm not sure if I'm right on the number, but it is, that was the previous picture that you had, the green one.
1403.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry. All right, so that's, I don't know if that's historic, but it looks like it's been there for a while. So that's what got me started thinking about doing something with the tile. So that's how we sort of got to all of that issue. So basically, that's all I had to say.
And that comes as a surprise to you that side of Court Street is not in the historic district.
Yeah, it is actually a surprise, but it's sort of the same period house.
The things on the east side of Court Street are in the district, on the west side of Court Street are not in the district.
I'm sorry, say that again?
I said the east side of Court Street, everything is in the district. On the west side of Court Street, none of that is in the district.
In other words,
this is the east side, I believe, but it doesn't matter.
Okay,
but it's the same
I thought that was the
period
west
house.
side, at any rate. I see where you went awry with your, tile is not the same as painted concrete, so that's a big change in character. So that's a change in material. So if you plan to repaint the porch and you were going to do it, you know, a color that's on the paint, it'd be fine. But to put tile on the porch when it was before painted concrete is a big change in character. And that's where I understand, you know, I've done this half my life, so it seems common sense to me, but I can see where it seems arcane to anybody else. I like the way that you put neutral tile around the edge so that it looks like the tile is a rug rather than looking like it's all tile.
Can we go back to the other picture? This is not the house that we're talking about. That's it. Okay.
I'm looking at the picture, but that's not what's up there.
All right.
Okay. The tile is really light colored, so it calls attention to itself. All of those houses along Finley there are the street and the yard are graded such that material that's on the porch is more visible than, say, at my house, where I've got a stepped-up yard and the street is down here, and then I have more steps than 2 at my front door too, so that whatever I put on my floor and a tile floor down the street from me, actually, you don't see that until you walk up on the porch. So it's not as big a character change as this was with this tile. Joel, it looks too much like interior tile to me and not suitable for the outside. I definitely think that the last minute decision to put tile on the risers, that you put the wrong tile on the risers, that if you put the brown tile, the quarry tile that you put around the edge on the risers, it would look better. So there's my opinion of it.
I agree with that. So when I saw this, I personally, there's a part of it that I love because it's slightly quirky and I do like it, but I do not like it on the riser. I think that when you put it on the riser, you took away from that, and what you're looking at and focused on in terms of the house is you're focused on the tile on the riser versus focused on the house overall.
On the riser, it looks like from here, in the picture, it looks like peel and stick tile, and that's not what you meant. I know.
Well, it definitely isn't peel and stick tile.
No.
I mean, I accept what you're saying, but just because peel and stick tile looks like that doesn't mean that that's what it is.
That's
but
true.
I understand what you're
That's
saying.
true.
I think it's the pattern itself on the riser that bothers me more than anything because I think it takes away so much of it in terms of the character of the house itself. Because again, your eye focuses on the riser versus focusing on the house and the house entry. In terms of the physical, if I remove that and say, okay, looking at the field tile at that point in time, I'm not as worried about it because again, it kind of looks like a rug and it takes away. So there's a part of me that says if we replace the riser tile and match the quarry tile, I would be much more willing to accept what is here, okay? And I do think that the tile is giving an appearance that kind of does meet it and upscales it. And I think that the tile that you picked in terms of the pattern, I don't necessarily have that many concerns related around the tile itself with the house. So that's just my opinion across the board. Ultimately, I do question, and I think we have to question this when anytime we see a violation come across, is would we have approved this prior to seeing it? And I don't know if I would or not now that I've seen it. But I do understand the issues with the paint. I also recognize the letters in the packet from your neighbors that are in support of what you have submitted, which I think just needs to be known across here that there's numerous letters in the report from his direct neighbors supporting what has been installed.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
you want our comments or comments from the audience
I'll
first?
take a few more comments from you, and then I'll
Okay.
get some from the audience too.
Well, I agree with you and Hillary. The porcelain tile as a whole, I'm okay with. It's just if he removes it on a riser, then I would not have an issue.
I'm leaning that way also.
Any comments from the audience? I'm sorry, I thought you were done. Go ahead.
No,
Okay.
I'm done.
Any comments from the audience? Than it is.
I can understand that. Is somebody going to come to the mic? What was said?
Laura. Laura Calloway.
Laura Calloway, Garden District Preservation Association. I'm not knowledgeable enough about tile and time periods to know about the appropriateness, but I do agree with what y'all have said, that if it were removed from the riser and replaced with the border tile, that I think it would probably look better, and just, I think that would probably be the thing to do.
This is a time period where you might have had a tile porch, but more often on a brick structure rather than a frame structure. But I think it's not out of character for the house I think it's just that riser thing that gives it the pop. You also talked about doing your sidewalk.
Yeah, that was the second thing.
It certainly needs to be done.
Yes, it does.
I think that the textured concrete that you've shown would be perfectly fine. I think that you need to make sure that it has the same divisions. This is kind of divided up into big slabs.
That's just because it's broken.
No, it was divided up when it was made, down the middle and then into sections.
Okay.
It doesn't really need to look, for your diminutive scale house, it doesn't need to look like a giant monolithic slab running to the door. It needs to look like pieces. So either squares like a regular sidewalk or these rectangles that you've got there, that needs to happen. It needs to be divided up like that. And it will weather better if it's done that, because it'll have a little space that it can move back and forth.
So, Madam Chair, you're saying the stamped concrete pattern with joints in it?
Yes.
Okay.
I think and if you do the joints too, you're going to want joints, because with the length of it, you're going to want the control joints there to keep from cracking. So it's going to benefit you in the area.
My sidewalk where it didn't happen and see what happens.
Frankly, I don't care. I just need to replace the wall.
Okay.
I was giving you a picture that would let you see.
Please do it before you fall and kill yourself.
Okay. All right. Is that all you need from me?
All right.
You want me to make a motion? Okay.
I was going to do it, but I'll let you do it.
All right. I move to approve the tiled porch as currently installed, with the removal of the pattern tile on the risers of the stair, and to be replaced with the same tile that's along the edge band and the riser of the main porch. And I move to approve the sidewalk as noted with the concrete, as long as there is control joints within the length of the sidewalk.
Yes. Second. All in favor? Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
You're home free. Okay. Jean Mahan, 10 Howard Street, requesting a height variance and a side yard variance to maintain a privacy fence.
Next.
So the Mahans here, Warren, do you know?
I'm not sure, no.
I don't see them.
No.
They've come several times.
Yeah.
Well, we can talk to them next time.
All right.
All right. And Candace Frazier from the Church of the Ascension requested to demolish a residence of the property at 1408 South Hall Street.
Good evening. I'm Candace Frazier, and Richard Norris and Ellen Brooks are here as well to help me with this presentation. We appreciate your time this evening. We deeply value the character and history of our neighborhood. Our request to remove this current structure is not made lightly or without appreciation for what has come before. Rather, it arises from a desire to responsibly steward a property that has become structurally compromised and no longer serves the needs of the neighborhood. The condition of the structure has demonstrated significant structural damage. Our contractor, Wade Norris, did a professional assessment of the property and found that significant damage makes restoration cost prohibitive. I do believe you have a letter from him in our packet. In its current state, the property is unusable and unsafe. Nor does the current structure adequately support the programs and the hospitality that we seek to offer to our neighborhood. Removal of the structure allows us to create an open and engaging space for all of our neighborhood. Our church's mission and vision regarding this property is about renewal with purpose. This is not about removing history. It is about creating a space where new life can flourish. A welcoming place for neighbors to gather, pray, and find support, a space designed with intentionality aligned to the character of the area, and a site of spiritual and relational renewal that is open to all. We understand the concern that churches always seem to be tearing things down. We hear that concern and we share the desire for preservation whenever it is possible. This request is not meant to be part of a trend. It is a thoughtful, mission-driven decision that has been rooted in discernment, prayerful, community-centered consideration, including our neighbors, the Garden District Preservation Association, and our City Councilman, Andrew Szymanski, who is in support of the project. We've also looked at it through a sense of stewardship and believe that making the decision serves both the present needs of our neighborhood and future generations. And finally, it has been a collaborative effort. We are committed to working with our neighbors, the Garden District, and this board to serve our district and our neighborhood, as well as our community, in creating a space where our neighbors feel welcomed, heard, and uplifted. Our commitment is to community integration. This is not just a church project. This is an invitation and a gift to our neighborhood and its strength and resilience. We welcome dialogue and feedback throughout this process and appreciate your time and attention. And I would just say this is not about a loss of history. It is a planting of hope and an invitation to renewal. By releasing what has become unsafe and unusable, we strive to make room for new life in our neighborhood. And I would ask Richard Norris to offer you more of the detail around the design. Thank you so much for listening.
Good evening. I'm Richard Norris, 1625 South Hall Street, and I'm also a member of Church of the Ascension. I believe you have a proposed plan that was submitted. There we go. We are proposing a woodland walk that you see at the top on the north section. On my left, my right is Hull Street and then Maury, so this is that northern point of the property. The entrance to the woodland walk would be through the labyrinth that you see, the round circle there. The pathway would meander through the property. The walking path would be of a permeable material. The shape will conform to the existing tree locations, and of course all the existing trees will remain. Understory trees will be added under the tree canopy. The existing plant material will be supplemented to create the woodland garden. The pathway will include benches and sculpture readings along the way. Appropriate drainage will also be added. And we will, of course, clean up the property and maintain it. And I'm happy to answer any questions about it.
Thank you. All right, in the interest of transparency, two of the board members are also members of the church, although neither one of us, or I didn't, collaborate with the committee on their decisions.
I didn't know.
All right, so. Is there anyone from the neighborhood to talk about this project?
Laura Calloway, Garden District Preservation Association. This was a difficult one for us because our beginning was the demolition of a building in the neighborhood. What comes around to us is that we've already lost the Lattice Inn, and that was the more historically significant property of the two. On the belief that the property is not safe and is not financially feasible to put it into usable condition, we see some great benefits for the neighborhood in the landscape plan that the church has proposed, including helping with the flooding that some of the residents on I guess it would be the east side of McDonough Street experience as a result of the Janetta ditch running down the center of this thing. So all things being equal, when we took a vote on it, the vote was to not oppose the plan.
Chair, can I possibly get clarification on two things?
Sure.
When did you purchase the property?
We purchased the property in January.
Okay, so it was in this condition when you, in other words, the condition is not anything to do with your ownership.
I'm sorry?
The condition is nothing to do with your ownership. You only recently purchased it, so the property was in a bad condition.
Correct.
Okay. And my second question is, there's a note in the report that says there's plans for a landscape labyrinth. And this is still the plan. However, you need to have an engineer in the appropriate discipline to evaluate the land because of the slope. So is there a possibility that plan will change?
Do you want to speak to that?
The plan of the labyrinth, I doubt will change because the drainage has already been designed for that. We will just add the drainage plan to the new property.
Okay.
By the same firm.
I lived around the corner from this house on McDonough Street for 15 years. And this building was empty the whole time we lived there until right about the time we moved, somebody fixed it up and a family moved in. And somebody lived in that building for less than 5 years and it's been empty ever since. So this is not a property that's been contributing to the kind of housing we need in the Garden District for a long time. I don't know how long it was vacant before we moved in, but it was vacant when we moved in. Yes.
Glenn Benet, Perry Street. I think the building needs to be torn down. My only question is, does the property go up to that street that cuts in between Hall?
Yes.
So that will be cleaned up too? Oh, great.
This is actually on the corner, isn't this on the corner of South Hall and, what, Marbury?
Maury.
Maury, okay.
You can come on, sir.
My name is Dwayne Duncan. I saw a sign in that property. I live close to that property, and my house burned down a couple of weeks ago. And I was inquiring about that property even today. That's why I came to this meeting.
Okay.
Because for now, it's gonna cost me $85,000 when I pull the permit downtown to reinstate back my property. So I was inquiring about that property because it's vacant to see.
I'm really sorry about your home, okay?
Yes.
Also for myself, what I can say is that when it comes to the physical, we have no control over property, who owns them, anything of that nature, okay? So we do know that the church currently owns the property, okay? And one thing I will say is what they've submitted to the board is what we have to look at, okay? And so, and that's really kind of the only parameter that we can talk about. So I'm glad you came and I'm sorry about your home, but ultimately the property itself sits and is owned by the church, so we have to look at it based on the current condition of the property and what they are seeing in need. What I will say is in terms of the design that they've given us, I don't have any concerns about the labyrinth and what is shown, and I think that it would also clean up the neighborhood and the area in which is in place and become a much better suitable space for the church and for the neighborhood as a whole. My biggest concern, though, and something that we continually talk about, is when we're taking down one of these historic structures, because once you take it down, you can't put it back, okay? And so for me, the understanding, and I think when y'all have came to the board previously, this was discussed, I kind of want to see a structural report, okay, and understand structurally why is this building not able to be fixed in something that leans from that direction before I say whether or not I feel comfortable with taking down the physical building. And I just kind of state that across the board whenever we talk about a demolition project. Is it structurally, does it meet the integrity and the character of the neighborhood, which this structure did in its prime? And then my second question that I try to answer is, if we are taking it down because it did meet the character of the neighborhood at that point in time, is it structurally sound and could it be saved? And that, I think, is the next question that I personally always have to answer. So for the church, my standing right now is until I see a structural report, that's where my vote kind of lies. But in terms of the designs that you've provided, I have no concerns over the designs. It's just a matter of backing up that the structure can't be saved. So.
And I'm in agreement. I mean, once it's gone, it's gone. And understand the letter from Mr. Norris concerning, his estimate of what it would cost to bring it back. Well, we don't have photographs. I mean, I recently had a lot of work done on my home from underneath, had to shore it up, had to replace beams. Contractor showed me photographs, explained to me why it was the way it was and what it would take to fix it and the amount. So I really would feel better. I mean, we're talking about taking down the entire structure. We're not talking about previously, like we were talking about adding a sunroom or converting a sunroom. Well, that's a little piece of a house. We're talking about getting rid of a house. I mean, I've seen it, of course, around church. I really doubt it is going to pass muster structurally. But I think in every case that we have given permission to take a house down, we've asked for a report from a structural engineer. The only time I think we did not request that is the house burned to the ground, and it was obvious that it had to be replaced. So that's my feeling, in agreement with Hillary.
You did not request a structural engineering report when we took the last in.
I'm sorry?
The board did not request a structural engineering report for the Lattice Inn previously when we came 2 years ago for that.
That's true. That's true.
All right. Stand corrected.
Are there any more people who want to make a comment? Any more comments from the board? Can we have a motion?
I'm in agreement with.
You're coming forward?
With Hillary and John about needing a structural report. But I do think in 2022 there was talk about a structural report. It may not have been done. The board may have approved it prior to, but I do remember the discussion. So I don't think this is something that has not been discussed previously. So I said all that to say that I agree with the two that have mentioned the requirement of having a structural report, a report from a structural engineer.
Do you want to comment?
It's me.
Yeah.
I'm Nelson Smith from the Garden District, and I'm also a member of Church of the Ascension. And I just wanted to tell you that I think this is a very important and worthwhile project. By getting the house torn down, we are ridding the neighborhood of a safety hazard and an eyesore, which has been there for some considerable time. And I haven't seen any effort besides this to improve that. It also, the tearing it down and the project as a whole will enhance the appearance and the welcomeness of our neighborhood. And I think it will also contribute to in a very peaceful way to the church's pastoral partnership in the neighborhood by providing a welcoming pastoral place for people to come and visit, to be there, to meditate, to pray, whatever. So I'm foursquare behind this. I think it's a very important project, and I urge you to approve this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if this helps or not, but I will say there are holes in the roof from a tree that landed on the property over a year ago. The rafters underneath Hull Street at the front of the house and supporting underneath it are already beginning to crumble and collapse. And that is the piece that holds up the street, not that holds up the house. I don't know what it looks like under the house where that is as well. But those are just visible to my very naked eye that has no professional ability to judge houses or structures whatsoever. But we did have our contractor who walked through the entire thing, and though he did not do a structural engineering report, told us that not only would there be significant issues with the structure and the roof, but also he believed that all of the electricity was out of code as well and would all have to be completely redone, and that this would definitely run us in the neighborhood of 6 digits plus, which would more than double what we'd actually paid for the property as well.
I'm ready for a motion.
I move. Okay. When it comes to my heart, I want to approve it, okay? But that's where I struggle, okay? Because ultimately, if I look at it without any thought of what you're putting there, and I'm looking at the house in itself and the property, and I'm seeing these the brick support columns for the foundation where the house is sitting and so forth, and some of the outside, I say, can it be salvaged? Okay, so to me, I'm gonna ask you, would you be willing to let us table this until next month to allow you to get a structural report from someone, okay? And I know that there are structural engineers in the city of Montgomery that would be more than willing to assist on a church project in terms of looking at it, okay? But have someone who's a structural engineer report on this house to determine, is it salvageable or is it structurally sound? And I think
we're definitely not opposed to that. I will say we are on a limited budget, and so whatever we have to put into that will take away from our ability to manifest what the final vision looks like. I would also just say that I've talked with Collier, and we've kind of made an agreement too that if anything was salvageable from the house, that they would take it and repurpose it in other areas as well.
Is that your motion, Morgan?
I moved it to table the until next month to allow for a structural engineer to look at the house to determine if it is structurally sound.
All right, may I have a second?
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I know that you probably looked at the minutes of the last meeting and thought, what happened? These are not minutes, because it was so short, but they were.
Then it was over. I was like, this isn't even, it's 2 minutes.
Does anybody have any additions or corrections to the minutes as mailed out? If not, they stand
You
approved.
ended the meeting before Hillary and I got here, so.
Yeah. Well, there we go. You people living out there in East Montgomery. All right. If there's no other business, may I adjourn?
Yes, ma'am.